Hello and welcome, my name's Paul and this is Paul vs. the Paranormal, the podcast. Today I'm going to be talking about Bolling Hall. I'm once again joined by my brother Robert.
Hello.
And let's get into it. So we're talking about Bolling Hall. Have you ever been?
Briefly, we had a school trip when I was at first school, so we're talking a long time ago now.
Yeah, same. Yeah, when I went, the ghost room was closed.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, it's been open for since then, which is going back several years. It's now reopened. So Bolling Hall is one of the oldest buildings in Bradford, which is West Yorkshire.
Yep.
Greatest county on earth.
Yep.
It's currently a museum and education centre. Last time I went, it was a small library in there. So the building is about a mile from the centre of Bradford.
Yeah, nice leisurely jaunt up from the train station.
Very nice leisurely walk uphill from the train station.
Yeah, you probably want to get a taxi if you can't be bothered walking.
Taxi or a bus, yeah, absolutely.
Don't think there's a bus that goes directly to it, though.
There'll be buses that go up nearish. Don't quote me on that because I don't like buses. Yeah, I'm not going to be doing it.
No.
So before the Industrial Revolution, Bradford was a small town and difficult to defend as it lay in a basin. However, Bolling Hall occupies a commanding position on a hillside. Now, Bradford nowadays is quite hilly, so there's not much of it in the basin anymore. So earliest parts of the building dating back from the 14th century have been interpreted as a peel tower. Now, a peel tower was a small fortified keep or tower, usually built along the English and Scottish borders in the Scottish Marches in the north of England, mainly between the 14th century and the 16th century. They were freestanding, with defence being a primary consideration of their design and confirmation of status and prestige.
Yeah, so it was no doubt owned by somebody very wealthy.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. So basically, they were watchtowers, and if you see Lord of the Rings where they light their little signal fires, basically what their job would have been minus the actual signal fire, probably. Maybe they did have a signal fire. Somebody else can look into that. Although Bradford is somewhat outside the typical geographic area of these defensive structures, so it's a bit of a weird place to have one. So the manor of Bolling, or Bollink, was also known. It was first mentioned in the Domesday Book, just about with everything else you'll hear about in England. Was originally mentioned in the Domesday Book, and was at the time in the possession of a man named Cindy. Not Cindy as in the doll, Cindy as in Sindi. The manor then came under the control of Ilbert de Lacy. By 1316, the manor was owned by William Bolling, and the Bollings owned the estate until the late 15th century, when control went to the Tempists, who held the estate until 1649. Now, the estates changed hands several times thereafter, until eventually it was let to several tenants until being presented to the Bradford Corporation in 1912, and it opened as a museum 3 years later. So it's been running as a museum for quite some time.
Yeah.
So during the second siege of Bradford in 1643, during the English Civil War, the house was a royalist base. And this is where that's where the good stuff begins, really. So on this occasion, the royalists took the town, which had a strong parliamentarian sympathies, and it was thought that the victors would put the inhabitants to the sword. So it's a polite way of saying murder them all. There's usually a material on display relating to the English Civil War, including the death mask of Oliver Cromwell. So you can look upon the face of the man who killed a king, forever preserved in plaster. In the 18th century, parts of the house were modernised by architect John Carr following a fire. The hall was designated a Grade 1 listed building in 1952. Now for the ghosts. Are you ready?
I am.
So the first haunting reporting occurred during the English Civil War. You'll already know this story yourself because everybody who comes from Bradford knows this story. 1643, the Earl or Duke of Newcastle, depending on who tells you the story, stationed at the hall after his troops had taken over the town of Bradford.
Yep.
Said that his bed sheets had been pulled off in the dead of night. He awoke to see a woman wringing her fingers, telling him to pity poor Bradford. Now, the Earl's original intention was, as stated before, to kill everyone. Maybe not everyone. He might have let some people go. But he was going to just basically destroy Bradford, raze it to the ground. But after that experience, he changed his mind and instead ordered his troops only to kill those who offered resistance. And as a result, only 10 people were killed. Much better than Waverly Hills.
Yeah, much better outcome.
Yeah, a lot better outcome. Now, there have been reports that this particular ghost story could have just been the Duke or Earl's way of making an excuse for not killing everybody. Oh, I saw a ghost, told me not to do it. Better not do it. Who's not going to believe him?
Yeah.
So over the years, there have been countless reports from staff and guests of paranormal goings-on, with no fewer than 20 recorded sightings of full-bodied apparitions. That's a lot of ghosts. On one occasion, the Most Haunted team from, at the time, Living TV, were on an overnight investigation when they captured the child's crib rocking back and forth on its own.
I remember that episode.
Yeah, I do as well. Wasn't the most exciting episode, in all fairness, but I remember it. Obviously, this being a TV show, we take some of that with a bit of scepticism.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
There's been many reports surrounding the Blue Room, which staff remain constantly uneasy about entering, often reporting the feeling of being watched. In some instances, people have cited the apparition of a man wearing a long black coat, standing menacingly. The sightings of a lady dressed in white have also been seen in this room, seemingly floating in mid-air across the room and disappearing into the fireplace. Throughout the building, the opening and banging of doors is often heard, and usually in response to requests from investigators. Now, Bolling Hall is obviously open up sometimes to paranormal investigations.
Yeah.
So
people can stay overnight.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, people stay overnight. Yeah.
Experiences.
People often report hearing disembodied voices, footsteps, and heavy breathing from the end of corridors and empty rooms. So quite a bit of going-ons there in Bolling Hall. That is, I mean, there is probably more specific information about particular ghosts on there.
Well, I've just been having a look on a website which is about haunted locations in Bradford. The Haunted Rooms, it's called. The 6 most haunted places in Bradford. So number 1. Yeah, looks like you found the same.
I've also seen that, same article, yes.
So the 6th most haunted place is a place called the Paper Hall. Which
go past that every day.
Yeah. It was built back in 1643 and it's believed to be the oldest surviving building in Bradford's city centre. It wasn't always known as the Paper Hall, and there are various different theories surrounding the name, but the most likely is that it is a corruption of the original name, Papist's Hall, since the original owners were Roman Catholic at the time when the popish superstition was suppressed throughout Britain. As you might expect, with such an old building, it is also reportedly haunted.
Yes, I believe it's an admiral, I believe.
Yeah, I'm skipping ahead because there's a lot of info on here.
Yeah, I believe it's an admiral. I have read, obviously I go past Paper Hall every day to go to work, and I have read about it in a number of books before. One of the books describes a black shadow figure that's been seen. Yeah. Others talk about an admiral with a peg leg, which I think actually the article mentions. But admiral having a peg leg.
Yeah, this article that I'm reading, it talks about one of the most striking reports of paranormal activity to come out of Paper Hall tells of a pair of large staring eyes belonging to a very ghastly face, often seen looking out of the windows, startling those passing by. Residents have also reported the sound of someone going up and down the staircase in the dead of night, but upon investigation, there's nobody around. So, consistent with what's noticed in Bolling Hall as well.
Yeah, very similar, yeah.
Very similar indeed.
We might as well just go through this entire list of haunted places in Bradford.
Yeah. Well, let's go number 5 then. You do number 5. I've done that one, so you do.
I thought you would like number 5 since you got married there.
Well, yeah, Bradford City Hall. It's the same one, isn't it? Well, register offices and whatnot.
Yeah, that's correct, yeah.
All right, well, go on, I'll do this one then. So Bradford may appear... So this is basically what I tell everyone who asks, what's Bradford like? Well, Bradford may appear a little worn and shabby today, but believe it or not, in its heyday, Bradford was a wealthy city that served as the very heart of the textile industry in Britain. Now, when the wool and textiles industry kind of... I think it became cheaper for the manufacturers and whatnot to get the wool and other materials from abroad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It would have cost too much money to do it over here, so they just kind of canned it.
Up and left, yeah.
Yeah.
Although there were still mills up until, well,
Early
I think there are
2000s.
still mills.
My first job when I were about 15-ish.
Yeah. Yep.
Working in wool mill down at Apley Bridge.
Also reported to have been haunted.
Yeah, it was haunted.
We will cover that in a future episode, though.
Yes.
That'll be an exclusive for us. So check it out when it does happen.
Word.
Anyway, back to Bradford City Hall.
Yes. So City Hall, it's possible to see evidence of the city's former grandeur when you look at the Bradford City Hall. It's a fantastic example of Victorian architecture, which has been very well preserved and is now a Grade 1 listed building. It was first built back in 1873, and for several decades, the cellar of the building served as the police cells for the local authorities. Local legends speak of a prisoner named Charlie, who once occupied these cells before being executed for his crimes, and it's said to be his restless soul that now haunts the City Hall, as he seeks his revenge for the ill treatment at the hands of the police. So it probably explains why there's so many... scruffy people hanging around near the City Hall and the police don't go anywhere near them.
Yep.
Scrapping and just being pleasant people in general.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love Bradford. So there have also been instances of poltergeist activity here. And over the years, it's fairly common for staff to hear sounds of a full court in session, despite the fact that it has... been well over 20 years since the courtroom has been used.
Yeah, fascinating. I'll go with the next then. Grafton Street. So Grafton Street might look like any ordinary residential area, but in 1926, it was the site of widespread panic caused by paranormal activity. I don't know if Grafton Street is still a place or not now, but...
Grafton Street's not one I'm familiar with, I'll be honest.
I'm not familiar either. It was probably still out there. Anyway, back to it. At the time, the city was in the grip of rumours that Spring-Heeled Jack was terrorising residents.
And for anybody who doesn't know, do you want to explain who Spring-Heeled Jack was?
Yeah, Spring-Heeled Jack was an entity sighted all over the UK, starting in 1837. He was often described as a tall man with clawed hands and fiery red eyes who dressed in an oilskin coat. When spotted following an attack, Spring-Heeled Jack would apparently escape by leaping over walls and over rooftops. However, while the entity that appeared in Grafton Street had a similar escape route, it did not fit the standard description of Spring-Heeled Jack. Instead, what appeared to terrify residents was something shrouded in white. The entity came to be known as the Grafton Street Freak. Fantastic name.
Yeah, brilliant. Typical Bradford sound.
And the disturbances continued for several weeks. No culprit was ever caught, and to this day there is some debate surrounding whether or not it was truly paranormal, or some prankster taking advantage of the unease created from the Spring-Heeled Jack rumours. I mean, I've never met anybody that can jump over a building, have you?
No, I don't think so. I think it's a bit early for that to have been the first signs of parkour being used.
Yep. Parkour made it originate in Bradford, probably originated all over the UK. Technically, Spring-Heeled Jack were doing it first, but...
Yeah. So parkour, clearly, the thing to take away from this podcast is that parkour was created in 1926 in Bradford by a guy called Spring-Heeled Jack.
Yeah. Good old Spring-Heeled Jack.
Well, not good.
No, probably not good.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Number 3 is the Parkside Social Club. Again, not really familiar with this. Not familiar with many social clubs, to be honest.
This one I think I've heard of, and I think it's quite a violent... If it's the one I think it is without reading, I think it was quite a violent poltergeist, but I'm probably going to be proven wrong when I read it. Yeah, I'm wrong on this.
You're wrong. Yeah, it's not this one.
There is a pub that's I thought it were in Bradford, one that's meant to be famed for a violent poltergeist. I'll have to have a look for that in a minute.
Yeah, that's you can do that episode.
Yeah, this one. Parkside Social Club may not look like much, but it's actually one of the most haunted places in Bradford. In the past, the building has served as an institute and a schoolroom, and this is where the resident spooks seem to come from. One of the most common sightings is of a young girl in Victorian-style clothing who is often seen and heard by staff and customers alike. She is said to run around upstairs, and her footsteps are frequently heard on the stairs. The girl has also been spotted in the pool room, and many customers are too afraid to go into the room. However, one of the staff says that her 10-year-old daughter is anything but scared. During a recent party at the club, she decided to leave some balloons in the pool room for the little ghost girl to play with. But that's it. It doesn't tell us whether the ghost girl actually played with them.
No.
That's a shame.
Yeah. Number 2 is Bolling Hall. We won't go over that because we've already covered Bolling Hall already in this episode.
Yeah, there is one thing I'd say with Bolling Hall.
Yeah.
I remember going there, and when on the school trip there, they have a well outside which is closed off, sealed up.
Yes.
So if you remember that.
Yeah.
I remember the hair standing on the back of my neck when I was stood by that thing. That thing creeped me out.
I'm not a fan of wells anyway.
Yeah, it's probably that probably did it.
Yeah.
The fact that you could fall in and, fall in.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think it was covered up with a big, massive metal grate last time I went. So
it were either a big metal grate or it were boards that were nailed on to keep it sealed shut.
Yeah,
it were fastened either way, but I remember feeling uneasy at that thing.
Right. When I went, you could look down it, but you can't really see much. It's too dark, and like I said, it's pretty deep as well. So, but yeah, not a fan of wells.
Yeah, stay away from them.
And then number 1, Midland Hotel.
Yeah, so speaking of weddings, someone else had their wedding at this one.
Our other brother.
One of our younger brothers.
Yeah.
And there were no ghosts during the wedding ceremony or anything.
No, I don't think there were.
Although he did go drip white, so
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
Could have posed as one.
Yep.
So who's reading this one, me?
I'll read this one since you read the last one there.
Cool.
Oh no, did I read the last one?
You would have read the last one.
I would have read the last one, but let's get to this one. So, if you're in search of accommodation with a resident Bradford ghost, then you may want to go ahead and check out the Midland Hotel. This is a very classic example of Victorian-era railway hotel. It was built back in 1890 next to the Foster Square station, and it remains popular to this day. So interestingly, our dad used to watch a programme hosted by Michael Portillo, who was he was using the Bradshaw's train guide of places to go. He actually stops at Midland Hotel in one of the episodes and talks a bit about, I believe he talks a bit about the haunting very briefly. But I digress.
Yeah.
One of the hotel's claims to fame is that famous thespian Sir Henry Irving and his manager Bram Stoker stayed there during Irving's turn as Archbishop. Lord Tennyson's Becket at the Theatre Royal. That's a mouthful. I'm assuming that's a play. I'm not into plays. It was there that he famously collapsed on stage after suffering a stroke and was rushed to the lobby of the Midland Hotel, because that's where you go when you collapse, is to the lobby of a hotel.
Yeah, standard. Yeah.
Not a hospital, to a hotel lobby.
Yeah, I'd want somewhere with a comfy bed to lie down on.
Absolutely, yeah. Hospital's not the place for it. And that is where he passed away, in the lobby of the Midland Hotel. We've been in the lobby of the Midland Hotel.
We have, yeah.
Waiting
several times,
waiting for parties or weddings to start. It's no surprise then that there are claims that Irving is the ghost who haunts the hotel today. In fact, his apparition has been spotted in the room in which he slept the night before the final performance. He's said to appear fairly incorporeal, so incorporeal means not solid, surrounded by hazy smoke, but is still recognisable. I'll be honest, if you showed me a picture of him, I probably wouldn't be able to tell you who he was.
No, probably not.
We come across as quite uncultured individuals, but we're not, just not our era.
Yeah, I'm not very cultured though, so...
Yeah, probably true, yeah. We're not going to lie, we're not.
Unless you class, like...
We're doing a podcast about ghosts.
Yeah. I was going to say, unless your class like watching TV shows and stuff is cultured, but that's just you learning whatever they want you to hear. Isn't it?
Yeah,
So,
absolutely, yeah. Yeah.
never mind.
Yeah. So that was a bit about Bolling Hall and 6 haunted locations in Bradford, West Yorkshire. Do you have anything to add to it?
No, I've just been, whilst we've been talking, I've been having a little look, and there seems to be quite a bit of coverage in the Bradford's local newspaper, the Telegraph and Argus, that has several articles about the different haunted locations. Mostly the same ones being mentioned.
Yeah.
And there's also quite a few things coming up for the different ghost hunting experiences in Bradford as well, so that's pretty cool.
Oh, okay.
Google it yourself. I'm not going to advertise for anyone.
We're not here to, unfortunately, we're not sponsored, we're not advertising. So, yeah, that is about it. So, I've been Paul.
I've been Rob.
We'll catch you all on the next one.